How other people talk in English. Lena loved English. She devoured books, movies, and songs, understanding every nuance, every clever idiom. But a thick, invisible wall stood between her comprehension and her voice. The words remained trapped inside, a silent symphony unheard by anyone else. This gap between her mind and her mouth was a source of constant, gnawing frustration, stealing her peace. She often observed others, curious about how other people talk in English, admiring their seemingly effortless conversations. Their sentences flowed smoothly, without hesitation or self-doubt. Lena yearned for that same fluidity, that natural rhythm, but her attempts felt clunky, like gears grinding to a halt. The envy was a bittersweet emotion, a motivator mixed with despair. Her biggest nemesis was the phrase, "I understand English but I can't speak well." It was her personal mantra of inadequacy. In classes, she knew the answers, formulated perfect responses internally, but when her turn came, her tongue felt heavy, her throat dry. The silence that followed her name felt deafening, a judgment of her hidden potential. The fear was palpable. I don't want to make a mistake, but I always why? This question echoed in her mind relentlessly. Each potential utterance brought a wave of anxiety, imagining mispronunciations, grammatical errors, or awkward pauses. The fear of embarrassment loomed larger than any desire to communicate, stifling her voice before it even began. She spent hours watching YouTube tutorials, searching for a magic bullet. English talking practice, how to talk in English, how to take first step for talking, she consumed them all. Each video offered tips, but the crucial leap from passive listening to active speaking remained a terrifying chasm. The theory was clear, the application paralyzing. Lena knew the theory well. Her grammar books were dog-eared, her vocabulary lists memorized. She could analyze complex sentences and identify subtle shades of meaning. Yet, this academic mastery didn't translate into real-time conversation. The knowledge was there, pristine and orderly, but the spontaneity required for speech was utterly missing from her repertoire. The advice "listen English" was everywhere, and she did listen. Hours of podcasts, audiobooks, and documentaries filled her ears daily. Her comprehension soared, making her feel even more frustrated by her inability to articulate. It was like understanding a beautiful song perfectly but being unable to sing a single note, a silent appreciation. One particularly frustrating evening, she stumbled upon an old forum post titled, "How to Take First Step for Talking." It wasn't groundbreaking advice, but its simplicity resonated deeply. The post emphasized starting incredibly small, so insignificant that failure felt impossible, reducing the pressure to near zero. This felt like a revelation, a genuine path forward. The advice suggested talking to herself, narrating mundane tasks. Lena felt silly, but desperate. She picked up a pen. "This is a pen. It is black. I will use it to write." Her voice was soft, hesitant, almost a whisper. The words felt foreign, even to her own ears, but they were her words, finally escaping confinement. She continued this private practice. Describing her breakfast, her walk, the color of the sky. Each whispered sentence was a tiny victory, a chip off the wall of silence. The fear of judgment was absent in her quiet room, allowing her to experiment, to make mistakes without consequence. This solitary exercise slowly built a fragile confidence. The next step was how to talk with anyone. This felt like scaling Mount Everest after navigating a small hill. The thought of engaging a real human being sent shivers down her spine. The stakes felt incredibly high again, bringing back the familiar dread of public performance, of being exposed, flawed, and vulnerable. She tentatively downloaded a language exchange app. Her finger hovered over the "call" button, a knot forming in her stomach. What if they laughed? What if she couldn't string two sentences together? The internal dialogue of doubt raged, threatening to pull her back into her silent comfort zone, away from the terrifying potential of connection. With a deep breath, she pressed it. The ringtone sounded like a death knell. A voice answered, clear and friendly. Lena's mind went blank. She stammered out a choked hello. Her heart hammered against her ribs, her palms grew sweaty. It was just a simple greeting, yet it felt like the greatest linguistic challenge. The conversation was awkward, filled with long pauses and her own painful attempts at forming coherent sentences. She fumbled for words, repeated phrases, and yes, made numerous grammatical errors. Every mistake she had feared came true, a litany of imperfect utterances, confirming her deepest anxieties about her speaking ability. But the person on the other end was incredibly patient. They listened, encouraged, and gently offered corrections without judgment. Their kindness was a balm to her raw nerves. This unexpected warmth, this lack of ridicule, slowly began to dismantle the fortress of fear she had built around her voice, softening its impenetrable walls. This first difficult conversation was a turning point. She realized that "I don't want to make a mistake but I always" was a flawed premise. Mistakes weren't catastrophes, they were guideposts. Each error showed her precisely where she needed to focus, providing invaluable feedback for her learning journey, a true map. How to practice English evolved. It shifted from rote memorization to active, often messy, interaction. Lena started scheduling regular calls, pushing through the initial discomfort. Each call was a small battle won against her internal critic, a testament to her growing courage, inching closer to conversational fluency. She began to understand that fluency wasn't about perfection, it was about effective communication. It was about conveying her thoughts and feelings, even with imperfections. The pressure to be flawless began to dissipate, replaced by a liberating acceptance of her ongoing learning process, embracing imperfection as part of her growth. Listen English acquired a new dimension. She wasn't just listening for understanding anymore. She paid close attention to intonation, natural pauses, and the flow of everyday speech. She started mimicking native speakers, not just words, but the subtle musicality of their language, trying to replicate their authentic cadence. She started shadowing, repeating phrases immediately after hearing them, attempting to match the speed and rhythm. This active listening transformed her passive comprehension into an interactive learning experience. It trained her mouth and tongue, muscles she hadn't truly exercised before, preparing them for spontaneous articulation. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, her internal monologue began to shift. The self-doubt remained, but it was now accompanied by a quieter, more determined voice urging her forward. She found herself thinking in English more often, formulating responses and ideas before she even spoke them aloud, building mental pathways. One sunny afternoon, during a video call, a spontaneous burst of laughter escaped her. She had just shared a funny anecdote, complete with gestures and vocal inflections. A complex sentence, once an insurmountable barrier, had flowed out naturally, without conscious effort or agonizing internal translation, a true breakthrough moment. The mistake still occurred, of course. A wrong verb tense here, a misplaced preposition there. But the immediate flush of embarrassment had faded significantly. She would quickly self-correct, or the other person would gently guide her, and the conversation would flow onward, uninterrupted by her previous anxiety. This consistent, brave effort was chipping away at years of ingrained fear. There were days of regression, days when she felt clumsy and disheartened, when her voice felt heavy and uncooperative. But she remembered the girl who whispered to a mug and kept pushing through the discomfort, never giving up. The journey wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon, marked by small, incremental victories. Each successful conversation, each phrase understood, each new connection fueled her determination. She embraced the process, understanding that true fluency was a continuous evolution, not a fixed destination. She realized that speaking English wasn't merely about knowing words. It was an act of courage, a willingness to be vulnerable, to expose imperfections. It required bravery to step outside her comfort zone and connect with others on a deeper, more personal level. Her self-perception began to transform. Her initial goal of avoiding mistakes had transformed into a desire for connection. The fear of sounding silly was replaced by the joy of being understood. This fundamental shift in perspective was the real game changer, liberating her from the shackles of self-criticism, opening up new possibilities. Lena no longer shied away from opportunities to speak. She actively sought them out. Online discussion groups, virtual cultural exchanges, even impromptu chats with tourists in her city. Each interaction became a precious opportunity to refine her skills, to test her growing confidence in real-world scenarios. She noticed a remarkable change in how other people talk in English. It wasn't just about their accents or vocabulary anymore. She understood their nuances, their hesitations, their own unique ways of expressing themselves. She saw herself becoming part of that diverse linguistic tapestry, a true participant. Her understanding of the language deepened beyond academic knowledge. She started appreciating slang, idiomatic expressions, and cultural references that were once mysterious. English became a living, breathing entity, not just a set of rules, enriching her communication and connecting her to new worlds. The barrier between her comprehension and her speech was now porous, not impenetrable. Words flowed more freely, though still with occasional stumbles. She no longer obsessed over perfection, she celebrated progress, however small. This acceptance fostered a relaxed approach, further aiding her natural expression. She became an advocate for brave practice. She encouraged friends who shared her initial struggles, telling them her story, emphasizing the power of consistent, even awkward, attempts. Her journey transformed from a personal battle to a source of inspiration for others, a beacon of hope. "I understand English but I can't speak well" no longer defined her. Instead, she proclaimed, "I understand English, and I am learning to speak well, one conversation at a time." This positive affirmation reflected her evolving mindset, her commitment to continuous improvement, and her unwavering belief. She understood that true fluency wasn't about eradicating mistakes but about managing them gracefully. It was about recovering quickly from a slip, rephrasing, or asking for clarification, all part of natural conversation. These skills, too, she actively cultivated, turning potential setbacks into valuable learning experiences. The fear of being judged had been replaced by a genuine curiosity about different accents and speaking styles. Every new voice was an opportunity to expand her listening comprehension and adapt her own speech. She discovered a joy in linguistic diversity, enriching her overall experience. Lena's confidence soared, not just in English, but in other areas of her life too. The discipline and courage she found in mastering speech spilled over, making her bolder, more willing to take risks. Her personal growth was profound, extending far beyond the realm of language acquisition. She learned to be patient with herself, acknowledging that language learning is a lifelong journey. There would always be new words, new phrases, new nuances to discover. The pursuit of knowledge became a joyous exploration, free from the crushing weight of perfectionism, a liberating discovery. The transformation from silent observer to confident speaker was remarkable. She felt a profound sense of liberation, a freedom she never thought possible. Her voice, once trapped, now soared, carrying her thoughts and emotions across linguistic boundaries, connecting her to the world. She recognized that her struggles were universal, shared by countless learners worldwide. This realization fostered a sense of community, a shared human experience of striving for connection. Her empathy for others' linguistic journeys deepened, making her a more understanding communicator. The initial "I don't want to make a mistake but I always why" had become a distant memory. Now, she would laugh at her own errors, sometimes exaggerating them for comedic effect. Mistakes were no longer obstacles, they were anecdotes, proof of her ongoing, adventurous linguistic journey. Her advice to new learners was simple: just speak. Don't wait for perfection. Don't fear the stumble. Every uttered word, however imperfect, is a step forward, a brave act of engagement. The act of speaking itself is the most potent form of practice, transforming potential into reality. She became adept at asking for clarification, a crucial skill. "Could you please repeat that?" or "What do you mean by that?" became common phrases in her vocabulary. These questions were not signs of weakness, but tools for deeper understanding and more effective communication. Her vocabulary continued to expand organically, through real conversations rather than forced memorization. When she encountered an unknown word, she would ask, or look it up immediately after the call, integrating it into her active lexicon, making it her own. The fear of how to talk with anyone had dissipated entirely. Now, talking with anyone was a pleasure, an adventure. Every conversation offered unique insights, new perspectives, and fresh opportunities to learn, enriching her life in countless unexpected ways. She joined virtual book clubs and movie discussion groups, actively participating, sharing her opinions and interpretations. Her voice, once hesitant, now contributed meaningfully to diverse conversations, a testament to her profound progress and newfound comfort in expressing herself. Lena discovered that the best way to learn how other people talk in English was by actively interacting with them. Observing passive listening was helpful, but direct engagement was transformative, offering invaluable real-time feedback and building genuine confidence. She started embracing the unique quirks of non-native English speakers, realizing that diversity of accent and expression enriched the global tapestry of the language. Her own accent became a part of her identity, not a source of shame, but a unique signature. The journey had taught her resilience, perseverance, and the importance of self-compassion. It wasn't always easy, but the rewards far outweighed the discomfort. The initial struggle had forged a stronger, more confident individual, ready to face new challenges. She reflected on her progress, from whispering to her coffee mug to leading discussions. The transformation was profound, a testament to what consistent effort and a change in mindset could achieve. Her story was proof that anyone could overcome their speaking fears. Lena now understood that making mistakes was an inherent part of learning, a crucial component of growth. They were not failures, but stepping stones on the path to mastery, each one teaching a valuable lesson, guiding her towards greater fluency. Her initial thought, "I understand English but I can't speak well," had been replaced by a quiet confidence. She could speak well. She could connect. She could express herself. Her voice was her own, clear and authentic, a powerful tool for engagement. She recognized the power of listen and practice but added her own crucial component: listen, practice, and dare to speak. The daring was the missing link, the catalyst that turned passive knowledge into active, vibrant communication. The fear had vanished, replaced by an eagerness to communicate, to learn from every interaction. The world of English speakers, once intimidating, now felt like an open invitation, a welcoming community where she belonged, contributing her own unique voice. Lena's story became a beacon for her peers, a living example that fluency was attainable through consistent effort and a willingness to be imperfect. Her experience proved that the first step, however small, was the most important one to take. She was no longer defined by her fear but by her courage. Her voice, once silent, now resonated with confidence, connecting her to a global community. Lena, the once hesitant learner, had truly found her powerful, authentic English voice, loud and clear.